Welcome to Dr. P.C. Verma Economist YouTube economics class. In this class, we will examine the statement of President Trump that India is a dead economy. Many economists in India as well as in US are not accepting this proposition. Alan Blinder, former vice chair of the Federal Reserve, is Gordon S. Rentschler Memorial Professor of Economics and Public Affairs at Princeton University. He has narrated the story in a proper way. Srijana Mitra Das asked several questions, and Professor of Economics Alan Blinder of the USA, former Vice Chair of the Federal Reserve of USA, replied our questions, all answers, correct answers on the basis of statistics, American statistics. Therefore, Professor Alan Blinder says that the US president is undermining faith in American statistics. The statistics and economics and mathematics, the three subjects are interrelated nowadays in the world. Nobel Prize winner economist in 1969, in 1970, Samuelson, 1969, Tinbergen, 1970, Paul Samuelson, and 1972, J.R. Hicks. All are in favor of mixing economics, mathematics, statistics in such a way that any statistical tool applied to the data through mathematical matrices and determinant, and finally coming to the conclusion, becomes law of economics. And therefore, today, economics is considered to be science. MSc in economics in Andhra University. One student from Bihar had been there, and he got the master's in MSc in economics. As I remember that in Delhi also, Delhi University or JNU, there is a MSc in economics. In Kolkata University, perhaps MSc, BSc economics. It is because economics is the bone of any economy, whether underdeveloped economy, developing economy, developed economy. On the basis of statistics and mathematical calculation, GDP is calculated. And first of all, GDP was calculated while after Second World War, Bretton Woods Conference was held in New Hampshire in the USA. In that place at Bretton Woods in New Hampshire, there was development of GDP approach, and every country were suggested to produce their GDP, and GDP considered to be the yardstick of economic development of the country. Alan Blinder, former vice chair of the Federal Reserve and professor of economics, he said that American statistics says that European Union, United States, United Kingdom, Japan, South Korea, and India all are India in billion, taking the value of exported goods and services. Value of exported goods and services. The India's value is in billion, South Korea also in billion, Japan in billion, UK billion, United States in trillion, and European Union in trillion. Exports of goods and services represent the value of all goods and other market services provided to the rest of the world. Data adjusted for inflation and shown in constant 2015 US dollar. About 7 questions Srijana Mitra Das asked Professor Alan Blinder. First question is, Donald Trump has called the Indian economy dead. What is your view? Professor of economics Alan Blinder, former vice chair of the Federal Reserve, just like RBI in India, so Federal Reserve in the USA. Question was asked by Srijana Mitra Das. Donald Trump has called Indian economy dead. What is your view? You will surprised to note that with a good face, a smiling face, Professor of economics Alan Blinder says, India's economy does not look dead to most people. If you went back a few decades, perhaps you could have used that euphemism, but certainly not now. India has been growing fast. To call it a dead economy is very Trumpian. Very Trumpian. It means Trumpian means Trump had undermined the faith in American statistics, which proves that India is not to call to be dead economy. India is India's economy does not look dead to most people. If you went back a few decades, perhaps you could have used that euphemism, but certainly not now. India has been growing fast on the basis of American statistics. And the statistics of India and our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, he is also saying that my economy is fastest economy in Asia. There are many examples which proves that India is a fast-growing economy. IMF explained it. What to talk about Trumpian evaluation? It is discarded by Professor of Economics Alan Bilinder, former Vice Chair of Federal Reserve. He says that in a very, very past, at that time India was called as country of saints, country of snake charmers, country of poor people having in a hand begging bowl. It was the period of Congress government. I exactly recall Prime Minister of India in 1984 for $5 billion loan from IMF met their President of USA for the clearance of that loan of $5 billion. What is today? Today, India has paid all loans taken from IMF. 100% paid with interest. Large number of countries in African countries and other countries, they are defaulters in paying interest and the payment of IMF loan repayment. Mr. Modi has paid 100% loan which were taken earlier by the government. At present, there is no loan on India as far as I recall from IMF. This country is fast-growing economy, not dead economy. Dead economy, and the term dead cannot be taken for granted. Dead is decided in our country by superpower. Natural calamities, dead. Earthquake, dead. Nobody like this. Term dead is not used in a sophisticated way. Less growth, more growth. Economics means a ladder. Low growth, no growth, low growth, middle growth, upper middle growth, lower higher growth, highest growth. What to talk about dead economy? If the economy is dead, a country has 140 crore people. How many people in USA? 36 crore. How many in Canada? 3.5 crore. Even China has less population than India. India has highest population in the world. Multidimensional poverty is reduced to very lower level as IMF has published the data. What is multidimensional poverty? That only economists will tell you. What type of house you are living in, what type of electricity you are getting? What is the quality of drinking water in your house? There are 35 or 36 items on which it is calculated multi-dimensional poverty. Not like in government of Congress period, where poverty means what? Whether you get calorie, required calorie per day, not taking other factors. ILO had accepted that model. Rath and Dandekar, economist of India, has developed it. And that thereafter so many changes in the poverty measurement technique was followed by the government. If you get 28 required calorie per day, if you are not getting that calorie per day, then you are poor. More calorie contents. There is further development in the measurement of poverty, and then at present multi-dimensional poverty technique is adopted to find out that how many persons have been brought above that level. That is another thing. Thing here is dead. I am against the term dead. Country is either developing, developed, underdeveloped. No country can be dead. This is quite surprising. You are calling dead economy. And one of the leader of opposition studied in Harvard University. He laughed, said that yes, he is right. I was telling that India is dead economy. This is the quality of the study in Harvard University. Great economist produced by Harvard University. So the coinage of the term is not correct. I request academicians to say that this word should be withdrawn. I am teaching economics for the last 50 years. Do you know John Maynard Keynes? Recently, I have read in the paper that President Trump is saying that India in the USA will be under the same condition as 1929, 32. Great Depression. That was the period of Roosevelt. Roosevelt is very far-sighted president. He called economist John Maynard Keynes from Cambridge University to USA to suggest how 160 lakh people were unemployed during Great Depression in 1932, 30s. This is called Great Depression of 30s. Great Depression of 30s, 160 lakh people were unemployed. Factories are there, but shut down because no demand for their goods. And gradually, no demand, then supply less, and ultimately factory closed. And 160 lakh Americans are on road, unemployed. President Roosevelt, fourth time he remains as president. He called John Maynard Keynes John Maynard Keynes at that time writing his book, The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money, which was published in 1936. But he implemented his theory in 1932, 33, 34 in American economy, and 160 lakh unemployed Americans again go back to their original companies. How could it be possible? Because President of America said, James Keynes, that how can these 160 crore people will go to their own factory? Factories closed, all factory owners closed, shut down company because of the overproduction and no demand, because persons who are from the job, they have no money to dollar to buy. John Maynard Keynes was a great economist. He was one of the members in the committee after Second World War in the Treaty of Versailles. He is the single member out of the 6 members. John Maynard Keynes was one of the members. He did not sign because he thought that war is done by Germany. And at that time, you know who was there. But others were also responsible, not only Germany. So you should not punish only Germany. On this issue, you consult Google. John Maynard Keynes did not sign Treaty of Versailles. And his name was recommended for Nobel Prize for Peace by German people. While I was writing about John Maynard Keynes, I got this information. This is in Google. So, USA president believed in economists. And Mr. Trump is not following economists of America. Professors of America like Alan Billender. Alan Billender said that in no way India is a dead economy at present. He provided statistics. All statistics are available in American Library, journals, American Economic Review. These are called international journals. Everywhere it is found on the basis of value of exported goods and services from 1960 to 2030. India position South Korea position, Japan position, United Kingdom position, United States position, and European Union as such. We all know that European Union is a union of 26 nations. India is one nation. European Union is, UK is separate, but all other 26 nations are under European Union. I have visited Poland, Germany, Netherlands, only one Schengen visa taken from Poland. And you can visit 26 countries. They believe in tourism. They think that tourism is the source of revenue. And therefore, if you take visa of Poland, you can visit Germany, you can visit Switzerland, you can visit Netherlands. This is economics. And you say that India is a dead economy. And listening this laughing face, by laughing, I've seen the uh, new laughing face of dear Rajiv Gandhi, dear Rahul Gandhi. He said, yes, he is saying that dead economy. I was also saying that dead economy. He has also read in Harvard. So I have been teaching economics for 50 years, for 50 years. Many IAS, IPS, allied services, collectors, deputy collectors, I have produced. They are sitting in my classroom taking economics as optional paper. Economics, history, geography, political science, Hindi, my professor in Patna University, many Delhiite students offering Hindi. So, without command, you have committed such a wrong statement that this has been very difficult to listen, to call India fast-growing economy. Alan Willender said that India is a fast-growing economy on the basis of American statistics. How can you call dead economy? Not now. You can go in the past, you may say. He said, go in the past. If you went back a few decades, perhaps you could have used this, but certainly not now. So, I am very glad to find a statement of Professor of Economics, Alan Willender, former chair, vice chair of the Federal Reserve. And I am also very much obliged to Srijana Mitra Das, that her questions are very, very important nowadays. Everyone is feeling very much disturbed, perturbed, that my country is said that dead economy. We are thinking in other way. From 10th position, India has climbed to 4th position, and suddenly pushing Germany third condition, third stage, third rank, getting in the world at large. Countries having a problem, many new problems like a scarcity of rare magnet, and its use in EV, electronic vehicles, not only a scooty and car, rather an EV truck is also in proposal in India. And you are saying dead economy. I'm grateful to Professor of Economics, Alan Willender, former vice chair of the Federal Reserve, answering this, that India is fast-growing economy. And this dead term, in his word, Trumpian. So Trumpian. And he says that to call India a dead economy is very Trumpian. This is what world-educated person, highly educated, professor of economics, Alan Willender, former vice chair of Reserve Bank, Federal Reserve say so. Like the governor of RBI, he also said that India is a fast-growing country. And on the basis of statistics, on the basis of comparison, past and present, with different nations, it is proved that India is a fast-growing economy. Another question Srijana Mitra Das asked, you have written about how Donald Trump is now playing with the risk of causing negative GDP growth in the US. Could you elaborate? What does it mean? Donald Trump, President of America, said that America will go into the 1930s Great Depression. What does it mean? 160 lakh people were unemployed during Great Depression. It was the British economist, Cambridge economist, John Maynard Keynes, who has shown the way. What John Maynard Keynes said? Digging the hole will give a job to Americans. What does it mean? He said that in gold mines, digging holes in gold mines, no require any factory. This work will be started. They will work as a in the gold mines and digging holes throughout 8 hours, coming outside, get $1 and go to the market, buy commodity every day. Then this will continue in a 1 or 2 month overproduction problem solved. That was bought by Americans who were put into the fast track job like digging holes in gold mines. Quick job. Even today in America, most of the firm on telephone hire and on telephone fire. Hire and fire is their policy. In India, UPSC, BPSC, other state services, PT test, mains written test, PT test, objective test, subjective test, then viva, and then selection will be done. And where you only apply, they will ask you, you will reply, and they will hire you. And if there is any problem, you will be fired. So hire and fire. He is talking about don't hire Indian engineers, Indian MBA, Indian professionals. I say fire all Indians, engineers, doctors, technocrats. Come to India, make India great. Your life is not safe. If your origin country is dead, then how much time you will take to be dead? There, Donald Trump said that don't hire Indians, Indian engineers, Indian technocrats, IITian, doctors. My submission that you go one step and remove all Indian back to your country, India, origin country. Recently, by 2 aeroplane several Indians were back to India from USA because they had gone through the uh, donkey route, and they were not authorized to enter. There is a procedure foreign going. I had been in foreign country. For that you have to take visa, number of days, number of purpose, anything is, then you will get it. But you are saying that don't hire Indian engineer, scientist, engineer, professor, doctor, lawyers. This is the first stage. Second stage should be remove all Indians who are working there, having no permanent visa. Kick them out. You are talking about Great Depression is coming in USA. What for you are there? You had been president and you are president. In between 5 years, you were not there. How can you say that USA will enter into the stage of depression? We all know trade cycle. There is depression, then there will be recession, there is a inflation, but they start from revival. If there is depression, there will be again revival. Revival will lead to prosperity and inflation, then to peak, then down again. That is disinflation. That is recession, and then lastly depression. This is cyclical order. This is called trade cycle. This is called business cycle. You are thinking that USA will be, due to tariff, low tariff, USA will be in 1930s Great Depression, when 160 lakh Americans were on road. It was John Maynard Keynes, President Roosevelt of USA, called him to come and solve this issue. So another question is asked by Srijana Mitra Das. President Trump has recently fired the US Bureau of Labor Statistics BLS chief, saying their data presented was inaccurate, even rigged to dent his image. How likely is that? President Trump says that labor statistics of USA is inaccurate. Alan Bilinder says that India is fast-growing economy. He says the data is rigged. Data is to damage my image. Again, Srijana Mitra Das says, ask question from Alan Bilinder. What does this incident, what does this indicate about the future of a statistical organization? What will be the future of a statistical organization if you have no faith in American statistics? US president is undermining faith in American statistics. What will happen that? President Trump says tariff will increase US productivity. Do they work like that? Tariff will increase US productivity. there is a father of economics. Father of economics, Adam Smith. Father of microeconomics, Alfred Marshall. Father of macroeconomics, John Maynard Keynes. And you are saying that a statistician, statistics is wrong statistics. And you are saying that tariff increase will use US productivity. You are putting tariff on foreign countries, and foreign countries will put tariff on you. Both tariff will increase, then effect will be cancelled out. Whether you increase tariff or you don't, both do not increase any. Then questions he asked, what is the future of global trade given Donald Trump presidents? And lastly, she asked, given everything going on, are there thoughts you would like to share with Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell? He is not going to resign before his term or is pushed out by President Trump. Second, the Fed will continue to call its shots on monetary policy the way it always has, looking at the economy needs and not listening the political overlords. So these are the questions asked by Srijana Mitra Das, and these are the answer of Elan Bilinder. I am concerned about telling you that India's economy does not look dead to most people. If you went back a few decades, perhaps you could have used this euphemism, but certainly not now. India has been growing fast. To call it a dead economy is very Trumpian. Alan Bilinder. Professor of Economics. And former Vice Chair of the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve. says that India is that India is India's economy India's economy does not does not does not look dead to most people. If you went if you if you if you went back if you went back a few decades a few decades perhaps perhaps you could have you you could have used that euphemism, but but certainly not now. Not now. India India has been growing fast India has been growing fast. Growing fast. To call it dead. To call it dead economy to call it dead economy is very Trumpian. Is very Trumpian. Federal Reserve Chair Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell Jerome Chair Jerome Powell has said two two significant significant things. Things. First, he is not going to resign. First, he is not going to resign. Resign before his term. Before his term. Before his term. Or be pushed out. Pushed out by President Trump. By President 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 Trump. Second, the Fed will continue. The Fed will continue. Fed will continue to call its to second, the Fed will continue to call. Second, the Fed will continue to call its shots. Its shots on monetary policy. On monetary policy. The way it always. Policy. The way. The way it always has. It always Weigh it always, always. Has, looking, looking at the economy, looking at the economy, looking at the economy's needs, needs, and not listening, and not listening to political overload, to political overload. Future of future of a statistical organization, future of a statistical statistical future of a statistical organization, future of a statistical organizations in the USA. It is troubling. The next thing, next thing, it may come up. It may come up with a bad number, with a bad number in Do Donald Trump's mind? Trump's mind is the Bureau of Economic Analysis, is the Bureau of Economic Analysis. In the analysis, in the Commerce Department, in the Commerce Department, where GDP, where GDP figures and much else, and much else, such as the measure of inflation, the measure of inflation, the Fed focuses, the Fed focuses 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 on on come from come from. This is setting a horrible example. This is setting a horrible example of what might be done with other statistics 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 other statistical agency other statistical agencies. It is not even limited. It is not even limited to economic statistics. Economic statistics. President Trump to economic statistics. President Trump and his administration and his his administration his administration are shutting off are shutting off information channels and which are shutting off information channels about health, about health, climate change, climate change, and a variety of things, and a variety of of things. President Trump President Trump also recently also recently fired the US Bureau of Bureau of Labor Statistics, Labor Statistics, BLS, chief saying that data presented data presented was inaccurate, was inaccurate, even rigged to to dent his image. In this context, in this context, Professor Professor of Economics and former 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 vice chair vice chair of the Federal Reserve Federal Reserve says all data are in inaccurate. Yes, there were big revision, big revisions. Here and there. Here and there. Revisions here and there will probably be revisions next month. Next month as well. But to suggest this was part of political manipulation. To political manipulation to make Donald Trump look bad is ridiculous. It is it is more than more than ridiculous. More than it is more than ridiculous. Ridiculous. It is actually it is actually quite evil. quite it is quite evil, and it is and it is undermining, it is under it is under it is undermining, it is undermining the faith, faith, the faith, the faith, the whole world, whole world has in American statistics, statistics which are which are considered 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 the gold standard. The BLS is is possibly the most outstanding out outstanding statistical agency, a statistical statistical agency, a statistical agency in the world. to think, they fiddled, numbers, to make to make Trump look bad. Look bad is is simply is simply ludicrous. Ludicrous. President Trump says tariffs tariffs will increase US productivity. Productivity. US productivity. But Professor Elan, Linder, Sage, Sage, tariffs, would not a would not a source of economic progress, although although they might bring they might bring back some many manufacturing jobs that are now abroad. Bring back some manufacturing jobs that are now manufacturing jobs that are now abroad, jobs that are now tariffs would not a source of economic progress, although they might bring back some manufacturing jobs that are now abroad. Regarding the regarding the future, regarding the future of global trade, regarding the future of global trade, Elan, Blinder, professor of economics and former vice chair of the Federal Reserve says says that he is quite pessimistic about that. for the last 70 years, the United States last 70 years, 70, last 70 years, as globalization, globalization, United States was always in lead, was always in need, always in the lead, lead, pushing it, pushing it. We had some backsliding now. We have some back back slide, backsliding now. Backsliding now, now and then. Then. But we have basically but we have basically supported globalization, globalization and trade. Now USA is pushing other pushing other way around. For the world will need a new leader or leaders or leaders pushing toward pushing towards open open trade, open trade and globalization, and globalization now. Of course, this will be hard. This will be hard without the United States of America. The biggest economy on earth. The biggest economy on the on on earth. On earth. Earlier, trade was backed by was backed by Americans. Backed by American. Backed by Americans and most other big economy and most other big economies. But the effort, the effort the effort to bring trade to bring to bring trade to bring trade back to bring trade back trade back in the in the Trump era will now will now have to come from outside the come from the outside the United States. From the outside ships. This means USA is the first. This means USA is the first is in this means USA is the first is in danger. Thus, we come to the conclusion that all the discussions come on the issue of views of Trump about the concept of globalization and trade and protection and trade. So this is the era of globalization, and of course, this will be hard without the United States of America, the biggest economy on earth. Earlier, trade was backed by Americans and most other big economies. But it is now found that the effort to bring trade back in the Trump era will now have to come from the outside the United States of America. This means US is the first is in danger. So this is what Professor of Economics and former Vice former Vice Chair of the Federal Reserve and Professor of Economics, Alan Blinder, has clearly said that he is pessimistic about the future of global trade nowadays, and it is USA for the last 70 years was in favor of globalization, and globalization was implemented in most of the country. India was also followed the same globalization, LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization. And India has used it and get success. But now, Alan Blinder, former vice chair of Federal Reserve and professor of economics, said that, of course, this will be hard without the United States of America to develop trade and organize globalization. The world will need a new leader or leaders. Very fine conclusion. Professor of Economics, Alan Blinder, former Vice Chair of Federal Reserve, says the world will need a new leader or leaders pushing towards open trade and globalization now. Of course, this will be hard without the United States of America. Of course, this will be hard without the United States of America, the biggest economy on earth. Earlier, trade was backed by Americans and most other big economies. But the effort to bring trade back in Trump era will have to come from outside the United States. But the effort to bring trade back in the Trump era will now have to come from outside the United States. Think Alaska, think meeting of Trump and Putin, and what conclusion is drawn. Great economist and vice chair of the Federal Reserve have decoded every internal things in their interview, and he says, of course, this will be hard without the United States of America, the biggest economy on earth. Earlier, trade was backed by Americans, most other big economies. But the effort to bring trade back in the Trump era will now have to come from the outside the United States of America. This means America is the first is in danger. Thank you. Thank you for watching this video, and let us conclude that it is better to follow liberalization, privatization, globalization by bigger country, biggest country. There should be coordination and open heart, and it is difficult and it will be hard without the United States of America, the biggest economy on earth earlier. that was backed by Americans and most other big economies. Now there are some new big economies, and therefore he concludes, Alan Blinder, a professor of economics and former vice chair of the Federal Reserve, USA, says, but the effort to bring trade back in the Trump era, for this 5 years, will now have to come from the outside the United States of America. This means USA is the first, is in danger, and it is right time to withdraw the statement, the India is dead economy, by Honorable Donald Trump. Thank you for watching this video. Like it, share it, and think good, and result will be good. Be optimistic, make other persons be optimistic. Follow truth, other persons will also follow truth.